Alrighty, so I'm gonna start doing some silliness where I'm gonna paint on this little video, but we're gonna take a very special miniature, larger because it's significantly beyond the realm of miniature. It's still small, obviously, but it is big. And that is Angus McFife from Warhammer, if you've heard of them. If you have, you're a nerd. Sorry, but it's true. However, this Crown Prince of Space Dundee, or whatever, I don't know. They keep changing shit, no one cares. Is a concoction of wonderful and insane and kind of stupid Chris Bowes, who I guess brought this idea. I don't know, maybe up to that's Warhammer. So they're running these figures. Even has his name on there, which is probably backwards. Or if it fixes it in the video, I'm going to look stupid regardless. It'll be entertaining. So, I'm going to paint this fucker. However, in a lot of the videos I started painting, and it's like, it gets really boring at the start. I mean, it's always boring, but it's super boring because there's a lot of undercoating. So, I went through the effort of getting some preliminary shading and the preliminary undercoat. So it's primed and generally ready to go. As you can see, it's super red. Why is that? That is because we're going to Chaos Angus. Why? I don't know. We had a discussion, and we decided that sounds pretty neat. And by neat, we mean we're nerds. So, the inspiration for Chaos Angus is from the heresy, pre-heresy Thousand Suns, because Magnus the Red did nothing wrong. And so, it's going to be Angus the Red. Even though the whole idea of a blade corrupting a dude definitely falls into other territory, like a certain chosen son of the Emperor, whose name I will not mention, the Horus Heresy, has some wonderful, wonderful lore in it. And I decided to just go with Magnus because I like the color red, honestly. Red and blue are like my favorite. This isn't going to have any blue in it, I don't think. And as you can see, he doesn't have his hammer. I'm painting it separately because it's going to be way easier to get into his groinal region. So, that's enough talking and enough of my face. Because honestly, 2.5 minutes of my face is way more than you will ever need in your life. Glory, hammer. So the first thing we're doing is we're going to be applying a highlight over all the red areas. We're taking almost a reddish orange, and we're dry brushing. We're going to be actually doing a lot of dry brushing on this miniature, but this is really just to make the things pop. The cloak is what we're going to work on now, and we're going to skip right ahead. We're going to be doing a lot of fast forwarding, but we're going to the helmet. Really though, it's a lot of the miniature is just a lot of this just to brighten it up. As you can see, through many of these layers we're applying, the bigger thing is we want to make it look like light's hitting it. And just take a look here. There's a little bit of that darkened brown that we get from it, from the shade, and the lighter orange really is largely meant to bring out all that highlights. I mean, that's what they're called, is the highlighting. So we keep on going from a lighter shade to lighter until it looks like we've got a nice blend. So this first step took probably an hour just to get everything looking nice. I think maybe closer to 30-40 minutes, but all in all, looks a lot better now. So at this point, I've moved on. We're going to be giving gold. This is really one of my favorite colors, and we're going to apply it to all the trim with a size 1 brush. I fast forwarded a little bit so you can see the effect of it. This is one of my, seriously, this is from Citadel's Retributor armor. It's amazing. And we're going to apply it around the edge of the helmet, and I love that, by the way. This is just adding that, and then adding the black and the shadows. It's perfect. So it's one of those things where this is I really like stark contrast, almost comical looking when doing things. So some of my shading isn't superb, but it really, in my opinion, pops. A lot of times when I'm doing faces, I do like staged makeup on a lot of stuff, so this is not terribly unusual for me. At this point, the horns shouldn't be red, so I'm using a Citadel Xandri dust. It's a kind of tan. We're going to be applying some shade to this later. Honestly, some of the shade is really boring, so we're going to skip ahead on some of that part. But this is just to show you, we're using a pretty easy brush here, and we're just going to, I think that's a size 2 or size 1. We're just covering it with this nice tan color, just to give it a nice, I guess, bone color, one might say. So next we're going to go adding black. This is about around the laces, his pants, the clothing beneath his armor, and of course the shadow of his helmet. So this part took a while. Hi, cat. I've got a cat who wants to chime in here. So the camera's having a little trouble fixating. That's my problem, I think. I'll have to fix it next video. But I really like the idea of having a much darker color between all of them, and given the red and gold vibrant colors, it really needed a lot of neutral to balance it out. And this step actually took a while just to cover all the black, but once it really, we're going to fast forward to that in just a few seconds, but you can see that after everything gets done, it looks really nice. So after getting the arms, you move on to the pants, and then finally the helmet. The pants is actually pretty easy because it's not really touching a lot of other stuff, so you can kind of go through it fairly quickly. And this is where a lot of the neutral actually comes in. I know it sounds a little weird, but the pants are pretty important to the color balance of the whole thing. And this is just really nice. I did step down to a size 0 brush for this. So I was not confident in my ability to avoid the gold. I actually had to do some touch-up later because I do hit the gold. So I make mistakes all the time, though, so that's par for the course, at least for me. Perfect. And I like it. And there's a cat in the background. Her name is Katie. Yeah, I can see the color balance was a lot better there. And now we're going to be doing some, first off, a little bit of touch-ups, and also we're going to brighten the red where we did too much dry brushing, because some of the, I guess, orangish colors makes the plates look, or I don't know, whatever this is, look a little too orange, and we still want a little bit of that red matte look. So we're going to just add a little, it's super thin down here, and when it dries, it's just going to look more blended. Kind of hard to see here. When we'll get a good shot of it later. So the hammer, I actually had some crap video for this. I'll try to fix this for next time. But for the most part, it was pretty easy. We just used a turquoise for the handle and the gray for the hammer. Turquoise, I felt, balanced out the red and gold, and without adding too much. I don't know. It's just color balance, I guess. So we let that dry, and we're actually going to start adding some gray here. This is like medium gray. It's Eshin gray from Citadel, but most people don't know what that means. So we're making the black pop a bit. So you can see here, the whole point is to make it look like the laces and the clothing is catching light. You don't really ever make black pure black. So what we do is just this, to make it look wonderful. All those raised areas on his folds and his crotch, his groinal region, making it look like it's actually folded. I mean, it is. It's got texture, so it's not like we're just fabricating this. Half fabricating. But seriously, that's the point of this. So going forward, I saw you had fingernails, so he clearly is not wearing gloves. So we have to add some skin tone. Starting with a color called Bugman's Glow. It's a deep reddish skin tone. It's not deep red, but it's in terms of skin, it's got that reddish tone to it. If you apply layers of this and then shade it, it gets really red. But right now it looks pretty normal. It's going to lighten up a bit though, because we're not going to leave it that sunburnt look, I guess. Right now we're using a light gold, and we're going to be going around all the trims. See how I'm using the edge, the side of it there? I only want a little bit to touch. So it's making the edge of it look light, almost like, you know, like it's catching light. But it's really, really meticulous work, and it's very tedious. So that was fun. So this, we're actually just doing a wash of a reddish brown on all the fingers and the hands. It's pretty boring. It's just non-meticulous, just slap everything on it. Now we let that dry. Fast forward, because it has that's very, very wet. It takes a long time to dry. It's a wash. So we're brightening it up. I did 2 layers of Bugman, or I did a Cadian flesh tone. Now we're adding another layer of that to these. Not a really good angle here. I'll get better at that, but we're really trying to make that look fleshy. This time I'm avoiding more of the areas. Any of the areas where it's settled in, like around your knuckles, and within the area where the hammer is clearly going to be obstructing the light source or just the downward angle, we're making it to where those areas are darker. And obviously the areas exposed up top are a little lighter. So we're going to just brush a little bit. So we're trying to avoid the knuckles here. And it's going to brighten all that up. That's with a size 0 brush. And now another wash. This is just a black, and we're covering the whole handle. And we're going to get the hammer later. I don't want to cover the whole thing in wet paint, because then when I touch it with my fingers, yeah. By the time I glue it onto the figure, that's when I'll do the shading on the mallet portion, I guess. But this is really helpful, because this is the handle's super textured. There's a lot of this wrapping around, and then it's got a different. It's at an angle for most of it, but it's got this horizontal at the bottom, so it looks super. It's really prone to these washes. It'll pick up the black really nicely. The black isn't gonna settle in super black. It's just gonna make it you know, like there. So skipping ahead to that, this is what it looks like when it's dry. And now we're dry brushing a little bit of this teal to make it look a little brighter, only on the raised areas. It's not going to settle into those areas we just shaded. So, and this is super fast work. We're going to take a nice blue, and this is way lighter than the previous coat. And we're going to dry brush that. And now it looks like it's got some texture. It'll look, it's a little hard to see under the direct light, but I kind of need direct light for my own viewing. But you'll see it when we put it on the Angus. But it creates a gradient between the dark green and a light blue. And given the texture, it shouldn't all be one color. So I'm pretty fond of that color anyway. So we're letting that dry and moving on to the hands. This time I'm using a lighter skin tone, but we're not going to give him a lighter skin tone. We're actually just going to give some of his knuckles and highlights and raised areas on the flesh a little bit of lighter color to make it look like there's actual shadows on it. The texture on that part of the hand is like flat, so we were kind of making our own here to make it look more realistic. It was a little surprising. I mean, I know hands tend to be a little flat, I guess, so, but I have to make it look interesting. At this point, we're taking the raised areas and just touching them, and voila. I mean, not really voila, it takes a while to do all these. I wish it could just be like bippity boppity boo, but alas. So I did put the wonderful hammer on, and now we're waiting for that to dry. So I'm going to start touching up the black areas. We're going to take a small size 0 brush here, and we're going to start making those gray areas more gray. We're just going to add a little bit of this lighter gray to it to make it look like we've got actual raised highlights instead of just having black and then one color of gray. I try to do a little gradient in some in some areas, but we're going to make this just a little more accented, I guess. when you see a miniature with just straight black, and then you look at the ones with gray highlights, I know there's a pretty stark difference. It's weird though, because it's hard to tell, but it's really noticeable that when you put them side by side. So now we're doing that same black shade. We're going to put it over all the head of this hammer. Cover the whole thing. There's a lot of cracks and stuff on it, because I guess the glory hammer is filled with cracks. Honestly, I'd say that those guys are just a bunch of crackheads, judging by how much cracks are in this hammer. It's just full of them. The recesses know no bounds. But really, that's all it is. This is laser work. You see how fat that brush is I'm using? It's super easy. Caveman could do it. Now, we're going to cover that base, because we don't want him standing on red stone. We're going to make it more like metallic stone. I'm going to do a couple layers of this, and it's really boring work because it's a big brush. So we're just going to look at, I mean, seriously, like this just takes, I mean, you avoid the feet and stuff, so that's kind of neat. Also, there's a cat in the background. Ah, you missed it. Oh, there it is. See her? She's so cute. Her name's Tiger Lily. Oh, she ran away. That's sad. She's really cute, though. She's fluffy as fuck. You'd love her. I mean, if you're a cat person.
Fight for the king, for the hammer and the ring. Fight for the ancient story. Fight for your life. We must fight for the power.
Lots of dry brushing here. I did forget to record a part of this. I'm using a gray, a lighter off-white, a light blue, and a blue, and then white, all dry brushing, and then a blue glaze. So the first thing we're going to show you is the gray. We're going to brighten up all the stony areas. It's not going to cover that black shade that recessed into all the cracks, and the gray will hit all that, and it'll look like a hammer. But we need to take a step further. I'm going to add some white, and then I will show you what the blue glazing looks like. But then I did forget to record the actual adding the white to brighten up all of it, but we'll show you the white highlighting to make the stone look more real, and then the blue glaze. Now we're going to go show off the finished model. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Honestly, I really like this album, Gloryhammer. Hope to see him sometime, and I hope you had fun. Here's the final glaze, and hope you enjoyed it.